What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be breaking down Jordan Reed's brand new 2025 NFL mock draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Below my face is my board. It is always shifting as we continue to update and evaluate players, so feel free to question about it, but I know you guys are going to like it. It is completely transparent. That's just the way I roll here. I know it's batshit crazy, but if everyone was completely honest with what they saw, everything would be a little bit batshit crazy. So I do back this up with all 22 clips over on my X page. The easiest way to get there, right through the link tree that is in the description below. Let's get into this. Let's have a great time. Feel free to use the sponsor of the show in UnderDog Fantasy, code HAILMARY, where you get up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you sign up. Jordan Reed is somebody who I absolutely respect, and one of my favorite people that I've ever gotten the chance to meet. I met him last year in Mobile. Excited to see him again this year in Mobile, and hoping, maybe we can get Jordan Reed on the show one of these days. Probably not going to be anytime soon because he just got a big money contract, but, super excited nonetheless for Jordan. Congrats on that. But let's get into this. Of course, Jordan, if there is somehow, some way that you do end up watching the show, feel free to always come on. You are always welcome. But at number one overall, we have the Tennessee Titans going Cam Ward. It makes a lot of sense. I personally would have fired Brian Callahan if I'm going to be making this move. Brian Callahan, I haven't seen the track record of him with more of the higher ceiling, lower level processor type. Not saying that Cam Ward has a lower level processor, but comparatively to Shedeur Sanders, who is in a much lesser sense closer to Joe Burrow in terms of the lesser athlete with the maybe lesser, air quotes, arm, not elite arm talent that Cam Ward can show from time to time. But Shedeur Sanders has a great processor. I think he fits very well with Brian Callahan. And if your dream was to go after Cam Ward, which the rumors say is the case, then I would have probably tried to go for a little bit of a different route. But regardless, Cam Ward's a great selection for the Titans. At number one, I don't think it's necessarily worth it, but at the same time, desperate teams will make desperate moves. And, even though I did end up forcing myself to push the quarterbacks down in my most recent 2025 mock draft with trades, feel free to check it out. It's 3 rounds. I ended up, still understanding why they would end up going Cam Ward at number one. Shedeur goes at number two. So quarterback goes 1 and 2. Shedeur Sanders, solid quarterback there from Colorado. Gave him his props, really good processor, solid arm, nothing crazy. But I do think he has too deep of drops, which causes a lot of artificial pressure. I also don't think he has the athleticism to escape said pressure in the NFL. So I do think there are some relative negatives there, but at the same time, I understand Cleveland Browns they don't even have Deshaun Watson coming back. He just got, I think, another surgery on his Achilles. So he's pretty much done there. So you do need a quarterback. I would prefer to wait till maybe the 3rd round, get someone like Will Howard, and then go after best player available here, which I think Abdul Carter would be probably my selection for y'all. At number 3, we got the Giants going Travis Hunter. Just versatile weapon there out of Colorado. I don't think that's a bad move whatsoever. Travis Hunter is a great player. I think that there is a really solid argument because there's the counter, which is like, hey, he's not the number one receiver. He's not the number one corner, but he also has split priorities. There is a chance to where if he does focus primarily on one of the positions, he can actually improve to be the best corner, to be the best wide receiver. And I think the Giants could be, honestly, in use of either one of those and primarily the cornerback. But regardless, I do think the Giants are in a very good spot there with Travis Hunter. At number 4, we got the Patriots going Kelvin Banks. Super excited to regrade the offensive tackle class. I'm just going to give a shout out right now to the NFL Stock Exchange. They just dropped their most recent tackle rankings. I have yet to watch it, but whenever I do evaluations or anything in general, even graphics, I love to just put them in the background and be able to hear what they think. I don't always agree with them, but they're people I have a lot of respect for. And, that's the beauty of the draft is we all watch the same tape. And we all know the names, we all know the background and everything. We all come away with differing opinions, and that's what's so beautiful about it, is that we can literally see the same thing, but also see 2 different things. It's crazy, but that's what makes the draft so diverse and so, populated with opinions, both, on certain spectrums and also on some other ones. But Kelvin Banks to the Patriots, getting a left tackle is never a bad idea. Upgrading the offensive line is never a bad idea. Do I think that would be better than Will Johnson, Abdul Carter? And even for the matter, Mason Graham? No, but I do think Kelvin Banks would be a massive upgrade and would be a big help there to Drake May. Jaguars go Will Johnson at pick number 5. I think it's an amazing move. They need somebody outside of Tyson Campbell. And I mean, if you're talking about getting Pat Surtain at pick 5, it's a good value, right? Pat Surtain, if he is on a contract like Will Johnson, is worth 2 to 3 first-round picks, which at number 5, I think is well worth it. At number 6, you got the Raiders going Abdul Carter. Essentially, this is just best player available, which is what you guys actually did a lot last year, especially in the first 2 rounds with Brock Bowers as well as JPJ. I don't think that you need to go edge. I think your defensive line is really damn good, but I also think Abdul Carter needs to polish as an actual run defender. Like, I have him at number 8 overall on my board, and people say that's absolutely batshit crazy. And it is. It is. I mean, I do have 2 players who should be dropping above him in Morrison and Josh Simmons. Those are pre-injury grades, and I also think Ben Morrison should be going back to school. But besides that point, I think Abdul Carter's an amazing pass rusher. I really do. I really did not see any progression from him as a run defender, which really bummed me out. It really did, because he's 250 plus pounds. It's not like he's 240, 235. He gets moved a lot in the run game. There's a clip of him trying to punch out the ball on the goal line rather than securing the tackle. I'm not going to criticize him for that. Honestly, if I see 2 dudes wrapping up, I would hope that they could outmuscle a really good running back, and then you could end up going for, the power play, which is like, hey, maybe he's going to be a little bit less tight on the ball tuck right there. Pause. But you got Abdul Carter doing a fine job there. Sucks to see Penn State lose in that fashion, but at the same time, I do think Abdul Carter's going to be an amazing pass rusher. I think across from Max Crosby for the long run, he's going to do excellent. And if you want to use him as a DPR, he's going to be extremely successful. I just do worry about the ability on early downs to handle the run, because he does get moved a lot. At number 7, you got the Jets going Mason Graham, incredible value. I love it. I mean, just like, that's the dream pick for the Jets. So I'm just going to leave it there and support it. At number 8, you got the Panthers going Mykel Williams here. Honestly, I could see it happening. Williams has progressed noticeably this year. I have an anti-Georgia edge rusher bias at this point because of how long it takes Georgia players, especially the defenders, to develop in the league based on what we've seen recently. But at the same time, I saw Mykel Williams starting out this year, and he was very, very far from where he should have been. Very far compared to where people were drafting him. He didn't use proper power. I thought he was a great athlete, but he played like he was 245 pounds, both in the power as well as the athleticism, which is a catch-22. Over the year, I saw him use his strength so much more, and I saw the polish really start to step in, and it's still getting there. I don't think he's like remotely close to his potential, and that's what is alluring at number 8 overall. I have him currently around 25 on my board. Where is he at? He is at 24. So he's improved so much over the year, and I could totally see a team saying, hey, I'm looking at this trend, and I know that the ceiling's all the way up here, and he's here, and we're already seeing this. What happens if we continue to develop him and he goes up even higher? I could totally see it happening. Maybe I wouldn't love it at 8, but I've started to be a lot more open to Williams in the top 10, and I honestly think if you want to be basically taking a Williams away from the Saints, that might be something that I could see being worth it. Speaking of, you got the Saints going T-Mac there at pick number 9. I think it's an excellent pick. I know that there's a lot of spots where the Saints could upgrade, but not many receivers in this class that can play the exact role T-Mac would be playing, or people get so mad when I say T-Mac. I don't know why. There's like 1 or 2 particular people who get all, Tracy McGrady will always be the T-Mac, so let me just make that very clear. I love Tracy McGrady, but Tedro McMillan, you want me to say that 5 times fast? It ain't going to come out easy. But regardless, McMillan is a fantastic receiver. I think he complements what you guys do have there, and Olave when healthy. Knock on wood, his noggin is going to be okay, but you got Olave, you got Shaheed, you got McMillan. That's a really good trio as it is. Then you got Memes coming up from behind, so I think that there's a lot of potential there, and McMillan does fill a large vacancy. It's a great pick at number 9. At number 10, you got Will Campbell to the Bears. I mean, if you really are focused on the interior of the offensive line with the upside of a tackle, Will Campbell's your guy. I mean, he's going to be a really, really good player. Like, that's the end goal for the Bears. It's like, hey, let's make our offensive line better. You're getting it with Will Campbell. But I do have this like innate desire to play Moneyball properly, which is I want to get someone who I think is a primary tackle who could play a guard, and that's why I lean towards Josh Simmons. I know that he had a season-ending injury, which is going to drop his value. His grade there at number 5 overall on my board. is something that is pre-injury. And yes, ignore Braden Swinson. I know for a fact that I am like absolutely ludicrous on him. I love him to death, and I'm very proud of it. But it's just one of those players that caught me off guard so much versus top talent that I feel like he's going to rise up a lot. Not to that point, but regardless, let's focus back on this. But Josh Simmons, someone who I love a ton. I think that he's somebody who I thought was a clear-cut tackle one in the class who could really handle being a tackle, but could even be better as a guard. With Will Campbell, I think he could be a solid tackle. I think there are concerns with spatial awareness as well as arm length, but it makes me a lot more comfortable as a guard. So for Simmons, he's a tackle that I'd be happy at guard. With Campbell, he's a guard that I'd be okay with at tackle if need be. And so that's why I'd value him over Will Campbell, but at the same time, I understand. Shedeur Sanders goes to the San Francisco 49ers at number 11. He's the most twitched up athlete I've ever seen at 6'6", 290. I mean, there's just not many players who move the way he does at that size, if any. So I get it. It's perfectly understandable, but I also am very, very, very underwhelmed with how far away Shedeur Sanders is from being polished. I think that there is a very good chance that we see a Travon Walker type of rise, which is what this is projecting. But Shedeur Sanders, I don't think is the best defensive lineman on his team. I think Nick Scorton takes that by a pretty solid margin. But I think this is very realistic. Teams like the Niners might get very excited when they're like saying, well, we're not really in championship mode right now, to be able to say, hey, we're going to take these projects to where when we're back in that window, they're hitting their stride. Could certainly be something that ends up working out in the long run when you do have a mentor there like Bosa. At number 12, you got the Cowboys going Ashton Jeanty. It's the easy pick. I mean, Rico Dowdle did such a good job for him. And imagine if you just add Ashton Jeanty into that mix. Like, he would be unbelievable there for the Cowboys. At 13, you got the Dolphins going Malachi Starks. It's a perfect replacement for Javon Holland. It just feels right. So Javon Holland, bye-bye. Malachi Starks, hello. And Miami makes the right move there. Colts going Tyler Warren is another very logical pick. I think it's a very smart pick as well. Warren's a fantastic tight end. I think he's capped in terms of his top-end speed, and that's why he doesn't separate very well over larger distances. But I don't think he's a bad athlete by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's solid twitch. Not amazing twitch, but I think his route running, his change of direction allows him, in combination with physicality, to get short range separation, which is key for a tight end, which I love about him, which is why he is my number one tight end in the class by a good margin. Good margin as in 2.25 points. But let's focus a little bit more on the rest of this. But Tyler Warren is a fantastic tight end. I think he's going to be a really big asset for whatever team drafts him. The Colts will be happy with him nonetheless. Then you got the Falcons going Jalen Walker here. Excellent pick. I do think he's more of a linebacker than an edge. You guys can see between Jihad Campbell and Jalen Walker which one I think should be more of a linebacker, which I do think the Falcons at 15 have the luxury of being able to kind of use him both roles. So I think this will end up working out very well. Good move. Good move overall there for the Falcons. At 16, you got the Cardinals going Josh Simmons. I'm perfectly happy with this. I mean, you guys know where I think of him. That's why I have my board below my face. Now, I am willing to stand on business and be able to provide clips that, do back it up. That's why I have an X page. I shit post over there, but sometimes it's good. But Josh Simmons is someone who I fell in love with, and I really do think that, with the athleticism, the polish that he ended up taking this year, I really do think that he could end up being a big asset for the Arizona Cardinals there. And it's a nice little change up of what they normally do. Do I think that you could get better value with a James Pierce or even going to the defensive interior like Tyleik Williams? Maybe, but at the same time, you're still upgrading a key position with a very good player. At 17, we got the Cincinnati Bengals going James Pierce. I love it. James Pierce is just such a damn good edge rusher. And I do know this team. Well, to be fair, we'll see what the defensive identity is going to be. But I do think if you do have the bandwidth or the capabilities to handle a 243-pound edge rusher, James Pierce is among the best of the best. I love him to death. He's a freak athlete. And for his size, he ends up handling the physicality portion unbelievably well. And I love that to death about him. And he was someone who I didn't have faith in at the start of the year. I'm always that type of guy which will say, hey, these are the players that are here right now. I could see them improving, but I'm very pragmatic to where I don't get lost in the sauce of being able to fall in love with projections. Now, I could see trends, but I also don't like being a huge fan of trajectory equations when there's a high amount of unknowns like Shamar Stewart that I was talking about earlier. Like, I don't know if that's going to continue polishing up and going up and up and up, but at the same time, it easily could, which is why they go very high. But James Pierce, he already was doing so well and was just like 5% off. You could say 20% off from being able to get to where he's at right now. And a lot of the timing is improved. I really do think this guy's a miniature Dallas Turner, which he goes, I believe, at the pick Dallas Turner went in the last draft. Seahawks go Josh Conerly at 18. Josh Conerly just declared for the draft, just went to the Senior Bowl. He's going to the Senior Bowl. This is going to be a great pick. He's going to end up being a guard when Abraham Lucas is, healthy, and then he could end up filling in when he's not. I think Josh Conerly is fantastic, so I'm going to support it. Seattle Seahawks going Josh Conerly. I think there might be, you could talk about Ursary there, which I love, but I mean, I'm not going to complain about a team going after Conerly. At 19, the Steelers go Siobhan Revell Jr. here. I wish I liked Revel more. I really do. I think that would be a fine pick on the Steelers. He's a good athlete, solid ball skills. Like, he'd be a good number 2 for Joey Porter. It would be underwhelming to me. I'm just not a big Siobhan Revell guy. That's just me. But if we do go and upgrade that corner 2 spot, which I do think Revel would be, I think that would be a nice win. And I'll remain optimistic about it. I would just prefer some other cornerbacks, i.e. Azariah Thomas. I'm a big Azariah guy. I know that now my boy James Foster's been on Azariah Thomas for a hot minute as well. It's good to see that we have a little bit of a cult going, but Siobhan Revell, still understandable. At number 20, we have Jonas Savania going to the Texans. Really good, flexible interior offensive line / tackle piece. I love the fact that he's played at guard as well as both tackle spots. And, I still think he needs a lot more polish, but when you're on the interior of the offensive line, I think a lot of his issues with spatial awareness and stuff go away. He has a really good anchor. He's a solid athlete. He's a mean run blocker. And I could really see him taking a massive stride as a guard. Broncos go Luther Burden at 21. Provides a nice relief option there for Bo Nix. I'm perfectly happy with this one. Great value as well, coming off a pretty poor year. At 22, we got the Rams going Colston Loveland. I think this is very, very similar to the same role that they just signed Colby Parkinson to a year ago, but sometimes you just got to be able to roll with the punches. He's somebody who's a little bit closer to Brock Bowers in terms of being able to have that run after catch ability, being able to run routes better, and also being a little bit more of a top end, high speed athlete. Brock Bowers will never be remotely touched by Colston Loveland, but the Rams liked that style of weapon, and they're getting like the Walmart version of it here with Colston Loveland, who's still a top 40 player for me. Tampa Bay Buccaneers go Jihad Campbell there at 23. That's my dream pick for the Buccaneers. I have him as an edge, but you can use him as a linebacker as well. Really good flexible piece, and I would love to see how they'd approach the rest of the draft. Then we have the Packers going Trey Amos at 24. Trey Amos is big. He's physical. Even though he's 6'1", 190, he plays like he's 200 pounds. He's always having his hand in the pass lane. I love that about him. He's truly he's a physical corner, and he's built to be in the North. Like, I want him on my Steelers, if I'm just going to be completely honest. Like, Azariah Thomas, Trey Amos, like, those dudes, I want them on my Steelers. I want them on the Packers. So whenever you send them to Halfley, whenever you send them to Tomlin, I'm going to be game. At number 25, you got the Chargers going Kenneth Grant. Instant system fit. I do think there are positions that might be a little bit better for value. Interior offensive line, when you could end up addressing it with Tyler Booker or Dante Jackson. I do think that, or Donovan Jackson, not Dante Jackson, Donovan Jackson. I think that you guys could be in a really good spot. But Kenneth Grant, when you put him with his former defensive coach, it makes a lot of sense, right? A ton of untapped potential there. I do think there are better moves, but at the same time, still a very good move. Then you got the Commanders going Emeka Egbuka. I've done this pick so many times, so I think it's perfectly reasonable. Commanders need another weapon. Emeka Egbuka is very reliable when healthy. Then you got the Eagles going Nick Scorton at 27. Literally a dream for him to slip to 27. He's at number 21 overall on my board. I think he's very similar to Marshawn Nealon last year, who I fell in love with, who's a friend of the show. But you're pretty much getting your version of Marshawn Nealon there at pick 27, which I do think when Josh Sweat's up, even though Josh Sweat should be back, you get your longer term option. And I think that's going to be where you can take a big win. At number 28, you got the Bills going Derek Harmon. Derek Harmon just declared for the draft like this past week as well. Really good defensive interior player with a lot of upside who improved noticeably since he's been there at Michigan State. He was a really good player there at Michigan State as well. Was a big fan of him. I ended up saying, like, who the hell is this guy? And I forget who I was watching, but it was years ago. I was like, who is this Derek Harmon kid? And I'm so happy to see him actually end up working out multiple years down the line here at Oregon. So good for the Bills. They need defensive interior pressure, and Derek Harmon could definitely add to that group. Then you got the Vikings going Walter Nolan. Again, I'm a big guy for Tyler Booker, Donovan Jackson, but Walter Nolan, hard to say no to at 29. It's a very realistic pick, and it's a position that the Vikings definitely need. Then speaking of the man, you got Tyler Booker here to the Baltimore Ravens, which is such a Ravens pick. They'll probably end up bringing back Ronnie Stanley, which if they do, having Tyler Booker being on the squad, I mean, you can't say no to that. Booker is such a fantastic offensive lineman. Can't really boost his stock by returning to school, so it makes a lot of sense to say, hey, like, not many guards are going to go much higher than the late first, and so he's going to take advantage of it and go there at 30. And at 31, you got the Chiefs going right down the road to Missouri and taking Armand Membu. I'm a big fan of Membu as a guard on the Chiefs. I don't trust them developing him as a tackle. They've done a great job developing interior offensive line players. I just pray to the Lord that they do not, you got to be honest with yourself about your strengths and weaknesses. Kansas City has not proven to be able to develop tackles. It's an unfortunate truth, right? It's just the unfortunate truth. And Armand Membu still needs a bit more polish as a tackle. Now, as a guard, you guys have shown a lot of propensity to be able to develop interior offensive linemen. And I will say, you do have Hunter Norzad in there, who I do love, and I would like to see him potentially at guard. But Armand Membu would be maybe my one exception because played in Missouri. Makes sense. And then you also can have him. He's like really, really, really solid interior offensive lineman. So I'm excited to see him in that role. He's improved noticeably over the year. I just don't trust the Chiefs with tackles. And I love Armand Membu too much to just kind of put him in a situation I don't fully trust. But at 32, Micah Green goes to the Detroit Lions. That's a very interesting pick, and honestly not one I don't like. I do think it's a very interesting and good pick. Mike Green gets to learn from Aiden Hutchinson as he continues to polish up. 17 sacks on the year, fantastic. I do think that he had very few translatable games and ended off the Ohio State game probably as well as you can imagine, but I do think he was a little bit more on the struggle side during the majority of that game compared to what a first-round pick should be. But you do see, like, hey, does Marshall really develop edge rushers to their full potential? No. So it does make sense for you to probably want to be able to take the upside that you've seen and go from there. Really do like Mike Green, though. But that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. And again, if Jordan's watching this, feel free to come on the show. You have my number. I have your number. We can make it work. But I love you. See you on the far side. Peace.